The massive structure at the galactic core looked like a nightmare made real. It was 10 times larger than any space station ever built, a twisted mass of biometal and living tissue that pulsed with dark energy. Around it, thousands of swarm. Ships moved in perfect formation, protecting their creation. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, looking at the tactical display with grim determination. His fleet had grown to over 3,000 ships, but it still seemed small compared to what they faced. The swarm had been building this thing for months, and intelligence reports said it was almost complete. "What exactly are we looking at?" asked Captain Lisa Blake, studying the sensor readings. Dr. Helen Park had been analyzing the structure for days. "It's a breeding facility," she said quietly. "But not just for making more swarm creatures. It's designed to create a new type of bioship, something that can travel between galaxies. The implications hit everyone at once. If the swarm completed their project, they would spread beyond this galaxy to consume everything in the universe." "How long do we have?" Morrison asked. "Hours, maybe less," Helen replied. "The energy readings are off the charts. When that thing activates, it will produce thousands of these super creatures every day." Morrison looked around at his crew. These people had followed him through impossible battles and won victories that no one thought possible. Now, he was asking them to face certain death. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," he announced over the fleet communication system. "You all know what we're facing. The odds are against us. Many of us will not be going home. But if we don't stop this thing here and now, there won't be any homes left to go back to." The response came immediately. Ship after ship reported ready for battle. Captain Danny Wells in his converted mining ship Iron Mule. Squadron leader Sarah Williams with her fighter wings. Even the refugee vessels that had no business being in a fight volunteered to help. But then, something unexpected happened. The west space around the human fleet began to shimmer and glow. Energy barriers that had been in place for months suddenly disappeared. The hidden fleets of the great empires materialized out of nowhere. High Chancellor Zor-El appeared on Morrison's main screen. The proud Altarian leader looked older than before, and there was something in his purple eyes that had not been there before. "Respect. Admiral Morrison," Zor-El said formally. "The Altarian Federation requests permission to join your battle." Behind him, dozens of gleaming Altarian ships took formation alongside the human fleet. Their silver hulls reflected the light of nearby stars like mirrors. "Permission granted, Chancellor," Morrison replied. "Welcome to the fight." More fleets appeared. The crystal ships of the Keth Collective shimmered into view, their advanced sensors already scanning the swarm structure. The Drakmor Empire's war fleet burst out of hyperspace with horns blowing and battle flags flying. Even some of the smaller powers that had hidden away came forward to join the final battle. Thane Corps of the Drakmor laughed with joy over the radio. "Now this is a proper fight. Warriors of all worlds united against the darkness." But Morrison knew they were still too late. The human fleet had begun their attack, but the swarm was responding faster than ever before. Their bioships moved with perfect coordination, adapting to human tactics in real time. "They're learning too quickly," reported Captain Blake. "Every trick we use, they counter within minutes." The battle raged across space for 3 days. Heroes fell by the thousands. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez died when her ship was overwhelmed, protecting a transport full of wounded. Captain Joe Harper led his fighter squadron into the heart of the swarm formation, taking out 3 command ships before his own fighter was destroyed. Engineer Kate Sullivan worked miracles, keeping damaged ships fighting when they should have been floating wrecks, but even her genius could not change the fact that they were losing. "Admiral," she reported from the engine room, "we're down to 30% of our original fleet. The aliens are taking heavy losses too. We can't keep this up much longer." Morrison knew she was right. The swarm's breeding facility was almost complete. Energy readings showed it would activate within hours. If they were going to stop it, someone had to get inside and destroy it from within. "This is Morrison to all ships," he announced. "I'm taking a bomber squadron into the structure's core. Captain Blake, you have command of the fleet." "Sir, that's suicide," Blake protested. "The core is protected by the heaviest concentration of swarm ships." "Then we'll have to punch through," Morrison replied. He was already heading for the hangar bay where his personal fighter was waiting. Captain Danny Wells heard the transmission and made his own decision. "Iron Mule to Admiral, we're coming with you. That mining ship of yours might be fast, but you'll need something that can take a hit." More voices joined in. Squadron leader Sarah Williams volunteered her remaining fighters. Captain Vel Saren of the Altarians offered her ship's powerful weapons. Even Coven of the Keth Collective contributed her advanced shields. The final assault group was small but determined, 20 ships against thousands. As they approached the swarm facility, the enemy's response was immediate and overwhelming. Bioships swarmed around them like angry wasps. "Stay together," Morrison called over the radio. "We only need to reach the core." Danny Wells' Iron Mule lived up to its name, smashing through swarm defensive lines with brute force. Sarah Williams' fighters cleared a path with precision strikes. The alien ships used their advanced technology to punch holes in the enemy formation, but the cost was terrible. Ship after ship fell to the swarm's defenses. Vel Saren's beautiful starfire exploded in a ball of silver fire. Coven's science vessel was torn apart by bioelectric tentacles. In the end, only Morrison's bomber and Danny Wells' mining ship made it to the facility's core. The structure's interior was a maze of living corridors and pulsing biomechanical systems. At the center, they found what they were looking for. The breeding chamber was a massive organic sphere, glowing with the power of a small star. Inside it, Morrison could see the first of the new super creatures taking shape. "Danny, get out of here," Morrison said over the radio. "I'm going to use the quantum torpedo. The explosion will take out everything within 1,000 kilometers. "Not a chance, Admiral," Danny replied. "We started this fight together. We'll finish it together." Morrison smiled, even though no one could see it inside his helmet. These humans, these impossible, stubborn, brave humans, they never knew when to quit. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," he transmitted to the fleet. "Thank you for everything. Tell Earth that we did our duty." The explosion lit up the galactic core like a new star. When the light faded, the swarm facility was gone. The super creatures would never be born. The breeding program was ended forever. The remaining swarm ships, deprived of their central command structure, scattered like leaves in a storm. Without coordination, they were just animals, dangerous but no longer an organized threat. The galaxy was saved, but the price had been enormous. On Earth, children would grow up hearing stories about Admiral Jake Morrison and the humans who chose to fight when everyone else chose to hide. In the crystal towers of the Altarian Federation, High Chancellor Zor-El ordered a monument built to human courage. The Drakmor Empire composed songs about the battle that would be sung for 1,000 years. Even the logical Keth Collective acknowledged that sometimes emotion and determination were more powerful than pure calculation. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Civilization's greatest achievement was not its technology or its power, but its willingness to protect those who could not protect themselves. And sometimes the newest and least advanced species could teach the oldest and wisest what honor really meant. The stars themselves seemed brighter after the battle, as if the universe itself was grateful for what humanity had accomplished. High Chancellor Zor-El sat in his crystal tower on the Altarian homeworld, watching the recordings from Kepler Station for the 10th time. His silver fingers drummed against the viewing table as human ships darted between swarm vessels like tiny fighters taking down giants. "How is this possible?" he asked his military advisor, General Kixarn. "These humans have been in space for barely 2 centuries. Their ships are primitive. Their weapons are simple, yet they accomplished what we believed impossible," General Kix Arn studied the tactical analysis on his screen. Sir, our computers show that human technology operates on completely different principles from our own. While we perfected energy weapons and advanced shielding, they continued to use projectile weapons and explosive devices. Primitive tools, Zor-El said with disgust. Perhaps. But effective against an enemy designed to counter advanced technology. The Chancellor walked to his window and looked out at the great barrier that protected his world. The energy shield glowed softly, keeping out everything from the outside universe. For weeks, his people had felt safe behind it. Now he felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Shame. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. In the crystalline halls of the Keth Collective, scientist leaders watched the battle recordings with growing amazement. The Drakmor Empire's war chiefs gathered around their strategy tables, their honor burning like fire in their hearts. Meanwhile, Admiral Jake Morrison found himself commanding a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships from dozens of worlds flew under human command. The refugee vessels had been joined by others, alien captains who could not live with the shame of hiding while innocents died. Captain Lisa Blake approached Morrison in his ready room aboard, the UES Defender. Admiral, we have a problem. The swarm is adapting. She showed him reports from their latest battles. At the Cygnus cluster, human forces had faced a much smarter enemy. The swarm ships had changed their tactics, spreading out their command vessels and using different attack patterns. They're learning from our victories, Blake continued. Each battle teaches them more about how we fight. Morrison studied the tactical reports. 3 human ships had been lost at Cygnus, including the converted freighter New Hope. Good people had died because the enemy was getting smarter. Then we need to learn faster than they do. Dr. Helen Park had been working day and night in her laboratory. Her research into captured swarm technology had revealed something that changed everything they thought they knew about the enemy. Admiral, Helen announced during the next briefing, I've discovered what the swarm really is. They're not some natural disaster or alien invasion. They're weapons. Artificial constructs created by a civilization that died out millions of years ago. The command staff gathered around Helen's display. Images of swarm bioships were broken, down into their component parts. Organic tissue mixed with mechanical systems in ways that should have been impossible. The original builders designed them as the ultimate weapon, Helen explained. They were meant to destroy any civilization that became too advanced. Too dangerous. The swarm has been drifting in dark space for eons, waiting for the right conditions to activate. Pilot Sarah Williams, now squadron leader after Joe Harper's promotion to wing commander, raised her hand. What conditions? Advanced energy signatures, faster-than-light communication, high-powered shields and weapons, all the things that mark a spacefaring civilization. Morrison felt the pieces falling into place. The great empires activated them. Their own advanced technology woke up the swarm. Exactly. And their retreat isn't just cowardice. Every advanced ship, every high-tech world makes the swarm stronger. The more sophisticated technology they encounter, the more aggressive they become. Commander Rick Martinez leaned forward. So what you're saying is, the more advanced a civilization is, the more the swarm wants to destroy it. That's right. But human technology is chaotic, unpredictable, and relatively primitive. We don't trigger their primary targeting systems. To them, we're background noise. Sarah Williams smiled. So we're like insects they don't notice until we sting them. Something like that, Helen agreed. Morrison stood up, his mind working through the implications. Then we need to stay insects until it's too late for them to swat us. But staying hidden was becoming harder. The human fleet now numbered over 2,000 ships. Word of their victories was spreading across the galaxy. More importantly, other species were starting to join them. Thane Kor of the Drakmor Empire had been the first. The massive warrior had brought his battlecruiser Bloodfang out of hiding, claiming he could not bear the shame of his people's retreat. His ship was painted in bright red and gold, and his crew sang war songs as they flew into battle. Admiral Morrison, Thane Kor had said when he first contacted the human fleet, "My people have forgotten what honor means, but I have not. I offer my ship and my life to your cause." Koven of the Keth Collective was different. The crystal being had arrived quietly, her science vessel full of advanced sensors and analysis equipment. She never spoke of honor or glory. She just wanted to study the swarm and find ways to defeat them. The collective calculations were wrong, she told Morrison simply. Victory is possible. I will help you achieve it. But it was the arrival of the Altarian ships that really surprised everyone. They came in small groups, their crews claiming to be independent contractors or rogue elements. Everyone knew the truth. They were Altarians who could not live with their government's decision to hide. Captain Vel Saren was the first to arrive. Her ship, the Starfire, was a thing of beauty. Its hull gleamed like polished silver, and its weapons could cut through a moon. But Vel Saren herself was humble. "We are not here as representatives of the Federation," she told Morrison. "We are here as individuals who believe in doing what is right." The growing fleet faced new challenges every day. Supplies were running low. Ships needed repairs that could not be done in space. Most importantly, the swarm was massing for a major attack. Intelligence reports came in from across the galaxy. The swarm was gathering near the galactic core, building something massive. Scout ships that got too close never returned. "They're planning something big," Captain Blake reported during a staff meeting. "Our spies in the refugee camps say the swarm has been collecting technology from every world they've conquered." Morrison looked at the star charts. The galactic core was far from any inhabited system, but it was also the center of all major trade routes. If the swarm controlled it, they could strike anywhere in the galaxy. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Maybe 3 months," Blake replied. "After that, whatever they're building will be complete." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The final battle was coming and humanity would have to lead the charge. Dr. Helen Park spoke up. "There is one piece of good news. I've been analyzing the energy patterns from the core. Whatever they're building, it's using the same bioelectric systems as their ships. The same systems our scrambler weapons can disrupt. Can we build something big enough to take out whatever they're making?" Morrison asked. "Possibly. But we'd need to get very close, and we'd need a lot more ships than we have now." Morrison made his decision. It was time to stop hiding and start fighting openly. Send a message to every hidden empire. Tell them what we've learned. Tell them the swarm is planning a final attack that will destroy everything. "And if they don't listen?" asked Rick Martinez. Morrison looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, millions of people were counting on his decisions. "Then we go alone, just like we always have." But deep in his heart, he hoped it would not come to that. The galaxy was worth saving, even if its leaders had forgotten how to fight for it. The alarm bells rang across Kepler Station as the Void Swarm approached. Station Commander Vex Ka looked out at the massive trading hub that had been his home for 20 years. 2 million people lived and worked here. Families from dozens of different worlds had made this place their home. Now they were all going to die. The swarm fleet was huge. 40 bioships, each one the size of a city, moved toward the station like hungry predators. Their dark hulls seemed to absorb light itself. Smaller scout ships swarmed around them like angry insects. "All civilian ships begin evacuation immediately," Vexca announced over the station radio. "Military vessels prepare for defensive action." But everyone knew it was hopeless. The station's defenses were designed to stop pirates and smugglers, not an army of alien monsters. The few warships present were merchant escorts with light weapons. They might delay the swarm for an hour, maybe 2. Vexca was an Altarian who had refused his government's order to retreat. He had silver skin and the tall, elegant build of his people, but right now he felt very small and very afraid. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're getting a transmission on the emergency channel." "Put it through," Vexka said, expecting to hear another plea for help that he could not answer. Instead, he heard a human voice. "Kepler Station, this is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Human Defense Fleet. We're coming to help." Vexka looked at his sensor display. A fleet of human ships was approaching fast. But they were so small compared to the swarm. Most of them were converted civilian vessels. How could they possibly make a difference? "Admiral Morrison," Vexka replied, "I appreciate your courage, but this is hopeless. You should save your ships and evacuate who you can." Morrison's voice came back strong and clear. "Commander, we didn't come here to run away. We came here to fight." Lieutenant Commander Joe Harper sat in the cockpit of his fighter, leading the first wave of the human attack. His ship was called the Wasp, and it was fast and deadly. Behind him flew 20 other fighters, most of them pilots who had never been in a real battle before. "Remember what we learned in training?" Joe said over the radio. "These things are big and slow. We're small and fast. Hit them hard and get out before they can hit back." One of his pilots was Alex Carter, a young man who had been flying atmospheric fighters before the war started. His ship was not even designed for space combat, but the engineers had done their best to modify it. "Lead, this is Rookie," Alex said, using his call sign. "I'm seeing something weird about their formation." Joe looked at his sensors. The swarm ships were arranged in a strange pattern, with the largest vessels in the center and smaller ones around the edges. "What do you see, Rookie?" "The big ones in the middle. They're sending signals to the others." "Look at the communication. Patterns." Alex was right. The huge command ships were coordinating the entire attack. Without them, the smaller bioships seemed to move randomly. "All fighters, this is Wasp Leader," Joe announced. "New target priority. We go for the big ones in the center." On the main human flagship, Admiral Morrison watched the battle begin. Captain Danny Wells and his mining ship Iron Mule led a group of converted cargo vessels against the swarm's left flank. Engineer Kate Sullivan had worked for days to prepare special weapons for this fight. "All ships, activate the scrambler rounds," Morrison ordered. Kate's invention was simple but effective. Instead of trying to match alien technology she had gone the other way. The scrambler rounds were basic explosive shells filled with electromagnetic pulse generators. When they hit the bioships, they would disrupt the creatures' nervous systems. The first salvo hit the swarm fleet like a hammer. The bioships reeled as their systems went haywire. Some of them started firing at each other. Others just stopped moving completely. "It's working!" shouted Danny Wells over the radio. "The scrambler rounds are driving them crazy!" But the victory was not without cost. Captain Susan Davis and her destroyer Defiant moved between the station and 3 swarm ships that were trying to break through the human line. Her ship was badly outgunned, but she held her position. "Defiant to all ships," Susan announced calmly. "I'm going to ram the lead bioship. Tell my family I love them." "Susan, no," Morrison called out, but it was too late. The Defiant accelerated straight into the largest swarm vessel. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, both ships were gone, but the swarm's attack line was broken. Back at the station, engineer Bill Thompson was working frantically in the power control room. He had an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. Maybe both. "Commander Vexka," Bill called over the intercom. "I need you to overload the main power grid." "What?" "That will destroy the station." "Not destroy it? Turn it into a weapon. Trust me." Vexka looked out at the battle raging in space. Human ships were fighting and dying to save his people. The least he could do was trust them. "Do it!" Bill's plan worked perfectly. The station's massive fusion reactors were designed to power a small city. When overloaded, they created a feedback pulse that traveled through the station's metal frame. The pulse turned the entire station into a giant electromagnetic weapon. The effect on the nearby swarm ships was immediate. Their bioelectric systems shut down completely. 4 of the creatures went dark and started drifting helplessly. In his fighter, Alex Carter was still studying the enemy formation when he noticed something important. All fighters, this is Rookie. The command ships are the key. When we took out that first big one, look what happened to the others. Joe Harper checked his tactical display. Alex was right. When the lead command ship had been destroyed, the smaller bio ships around it had become confused and disorganized. You're right, kid. All fighters, new plan. We focus everything on the command ships. Take them out and the rest fall apart. The human fleet coordinated their attack like never before. Fighters and bombers concentrated their fire on the largest swarm vessels. The converted cargo ships used their scrambler rounds to disrupt the creatures' coordination. Even the refugee ships joined in, using whatever weapons they could find. One by one, the swarm command ships fell, and as each one was destroyed, the smaller bio ships became more and more confused. Some of them stopped fighting completely, others started attacking their own allies. "They're breaking," called Captain Blake from her position near the station. "The swarm is retreating." It was true. For the first time since the crisis began, the Void Swarm was not just stopped but completely defeated. The remaining bio ships turned and fled into deep space, leaving behind the wreckage of their fallen comrades. On Kepler Station, Commander Vex Ka stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. "How is this possible? You defeated them completely." Admiral Morrison's voice came over the radio, tired but proud. "Commander, sometimes the best technology is the one nobody expects. The victory at Kepler Station changed everything. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light. In the hidden empires, leaders watched the recordings with amazement and shame. The humans had done what everyone said was impossible. They had beaten the Void Swarm." 3 weeks had passed since Admiral Jake Morrison sent his message across human space. The response surprised even him. Ships came from everywhere. Old cargo haulers with weapons welded to their sides, mining vessels with makeshift armor plates. Even tourist ships had been turned into rescue boats. Captain Danny Wells stood on the bridge of his converted mining ship, the Iron Mule. 2 months ago, it had been pulling asteroids apart for rare metals. Now it carried enough firepower to take on a small warship. Danny looked at his crew of former miners and smiled. They were not soldiers, but they were tough, and they knew how to work hard. "Captain," called his engineer, Kate Sullivan, "the weapon systems are ready. The new plasma cutters should work just fine as ship killers." Kate was proud of her work. She had taken the tools they used to cut through rock and turned them into weapons. The other ships in the fleet had done the same thing. Humans were good at making tools, do jobs they were never meant to do. The human fleet had grown to over 800 ships. They were spread across 3 star systems, trying to help anyone who needed it. It was not enough. Every day brought news of more worlds under attack. Admiral Morrison watched the tactical display in his command center. Red dots showed where the swarm had been spotted. Each dot meant millions of people in danger. Yellow dots showed human ships trying to help. There were far more red dots than yellow ones. "Sir," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, "we're getting a transmission from the Epsilon sector. It's from a refugee ship." "Put it on screen," Morrison ordered. The face that appeared was strange and beautiful. It belonged to Captain Zix Nell of the Zephyrian merchant fleet. Her skin was pale blue and her eyes were large and silver. Behind her, Morrison could see dozens of other beings crowded into what looked like a cargo hold. "Human Admiral," Zix Nell said, her voice shaking. "We escaped from the Torvac system before the swarm arrived. We have 600 people on board. But our ship is damaged. We need help." Morrison looked at the star charts. The Torvac system was 3 days away at best speed. "What's your current position?" "We're drifting near the Helix Nebula. Our engines are failing, and we have wounded who need medical care. Commander Rick Martinez stepped forward. Admiral, the Helix Nebula is right in the swarm's path. If we send ships there, we might lose them. Morrison nodded. It was true, but he looked at the frightened faces on the screen and made his choice. Captain Blake, take the medical ships Guardian and Mercy. Get those people to safety. Yes, sir, Lisa Blake replied. She never questioned his orders, even when they seemed impossible. As the weeks passed, more refugees arrived. Not just Zephyrians, but beings from dozens of different worlds. The peaceful Ornith scholars came in their library ships, carrying the knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. The trader families of the Nexus brought their children and their hopes for a future. Dr. Helen Park worked day and night in her laboratory aboard the science vessel Discovery. She was studying pieces of destroyed swarm creatures that had been collected from battle sites. What she found was both terrifying and interesting. They're not alive, she told Morrison during a briefing. Not in any way we understand life. They're machines, but made from organic materials. Someone built them a long time ago. Morrison studied the samples under the microscope. The swarm creatures looked like a cross between insects and machines. Built them for what? War, Helen said simply. They're weapons designed to destroy advanced civilizations. But here's the strange part. They seem to target specific types of technology, energy signatures, communication frequencies, power sources. The more advanced a civilization is, the more the swarm wants to destroy it. Captain Blake joined the conversation. That would explain why the great empires ran away. Their own technology makes them targets. Exactly, Helen continued. But human technology is different. We're newer to space travel. Our systems are simpler, more basic. The swarm doesn't see us as a major threat. Morrison thought about this. So we're flying under their radar. For now. But if we start using captured alien technology, or if we advance too quickly, they'll notice us. This gave Morrison an idea. If human technology was invisible to the swarm, maybe they could use that advantage. The first test came when Captain Danny Wells encountered a swarm patrol near the mining colony of New Perth. His ship and 2 others faced off against 6 swarm bioships. The alien vessels were larger and faster, but something strange happened during the fight. They're not coordinating their attacks, Wells reported over the radio. It's like they can't see us properly. The human ships were able to hit and run, striking the swarm vessels and then disappearing before they could respond. Within 2 hours, all 6 swarm ships were destroyed. The humans had only lost 1 fighter. News of the victory spread quickly through the refugee fleet. For the first time since the crisis began, there was hope, but not everyone was happy with the way things were going. Commander Rick Martinez called a meeting of the senior officers. He was a good man, but he worried about taking too many risks. Can't save everyone, Rick argued. Our resources are stretched too thin. We're losing ships faster than we can replace them. Morrison looked around the room at his officers. They were tired. Dark circles under their eyes showed they had not been sleeping well. But there was something else in their faces. Determination. What do you think we should do? Morrison asked. Pick our battles, Rick said. Focus on the fights we can win. Stop trying to rescue every refugee ship. The room was quiet. Morrison understood Rick's point. They were taking heavy losses. But then he thought about Captain Zix Nell and her 600 refugees. He thought about the Ornith children he had seen playing in the refugee camps. No, Morrison said finally. We don't get to choose who lives and who dies based on whether it's convenient for us. Kate Sullivan spoke up from the back of the room. Sir, I've been working on something. The swarm ships use bioelectric systems. If we can modify our weapons to disrupt those systems. Show me, Morrison said. Kate's plan was brilliant. Human weapons worked differently from alien technology. Instead of energy beams, humans still used projectile weapons and explosives. These simple weapons could be modified to carry special charges that would scramble the swarm's bioelectric systems. It's like using a hammer when everyone else is using a computer, Kate explained. Sometimes the simple tool works better. Morrison made his decision. We're going to hit them where it hurts. Every stand we make it count. Every rescue, we do it right. And we're going to show the galaxy that running away isn't the only option. As he spoke, more ships arrived to join the human fleet. Not all of them were human ships. Some alien captains had decided they could not live with the shame of abandoning the innocent. A Drakmor warrior named Thane Kor brought his battle cruiser. A Keth scientist called Koven offered her people's advanced sensors. The alliance was growing, and with it, hope for the future. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Defender. His hands gripped the metal rail as he watched the big screen in front of him. The Galactic Council was meeting, and he could see leaders from across the galaxy talking in worried voices. Their faces showed fear like he had never seen before. 3 weeks ago, the first reports came in. Something was moving in the dark spaces between the stars. The scientists called them the Void Swarm. These things were not like any life form anyone had ever seen. They moved from world to world, eating everything in their path. When they finished with a planet, nothing was left. No cities, no forests, no oceans. Just empty rock floating in space. Jake had seen the recordings from the first attacks. The planet Xerion had been home to 6 billion people. It had beautiful blue oceans and green forests. Now it was gray and dead. The swarm had taken everything and moved on to the next world. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her station. "The Altarian Federation is speaking now." Jake turned his attention back to the screen. Ambassador Veltor of the Altarian Federation was a tall, elegant being with silver skin and large purple eyes. The Altarians had been in space for over 10,000 years. They had technology that seemed like magic to most other races. Their ships could travel faster than anything else in the galaxy. "The Federation has made its decision," Veltor announced. "We are activating our defensive barriers. All Altarian worlds will be sealed behind energy shields. Nothing can get in or out." Jake felt his stomach drop. The Altarians were the most powerful force in the galaxy. If they were running away, what hope did anyone else have? Captain Lisa Blake stepped up beside him. She was Jake's second-in-command and one of the best officers he had ever worked with. "They can't be serious," she whispered. But they were serious. One by one, the other great powers made the same choice. The Keth Collective, masters of science and technology, announced they were using their cloaking systems to hide their entire civilization. Their representative, a being that looked like it was made of living crystal, spoke in a cold voice. "The collective calculates a 0% chance of victory against the swarm," it said. "We are withdrawing from all contact with the outside galaxy. Our worlds will vanish from all sensors. The swarm cannot destroy what it cannot find." Even the Drakmor Empire chose to hide. Jake had always respected the Drakmor. They were warriors who lived by honor and courage. Their ships were painted in bright colors and they never backed down from a fight. But now their war chief Gromak stood before the council with shame in his yellow eyes. The Empire will protect its own," Gromak said, his voice breaking. "We are pulling back to our core worlds. The outer territories are on their own." Jake watched as empire after empire made the same choice. The Spiral Alliance sealed their borders. The Trade Federation recalled all their ships. The religious orders of Kepler withdrew to their temple worlds. In less than 2 hours, every major power in the galaxy had decided to abandon the smaller civilizations. "What about the trading posts?" asked Amy, her voice shaking. "What about the research stations and the colony worlds?" On the screen, the council chamber was almost empty now. Only a few representatives remained, mostly from small nations that had no power to defend themselves. A Zephyrian merchant captain stood up. His people were traders who had never hurt anyone. They had small, fast ships, but no weapons to speak of. "Please," the merchant begged. "The Zenith trading post has 40,000 people. We have families, children. We cannot fight these monsters alone." But there was no answer. The great powers had already cut their communication links. Their representatives had vanished from the chamber. The small civilizations were truly alone. Jake felt anger building in his chest. He thought about all the times these same empires had talked about honor and justice. The Altarians always spoke about protecting the weak. The Drakmor sang songs about dying in battle rather than living in shame. The Keth Collective claimed to work for the good of all thinking beings. Now, when it mattered most, they had all chosen to save themselves. "Admiral," said Commander Rick Martinez from the communication station, "Earth Command is asking for orders. What should we tell them?" Jake looked around his bridge. These were good people, all of them. Amy had joined the fleet because she wanted to explore the stars. Lisa had given up a comfortable job on Earth to serve in space. Rick had 3 children back on Earth who thought their father was a hero. Humanity had only been in space for 200 years. Their ships were slow compared to alien technology. Their weapons were simple. Most other races saw humans as newcomers who still had a lot to learn. The great empires had been polite to them, but everyone knew humans were far behind in technology and power. "Admiral?" Lisa asked again. "What are your orders?" Jake thought about the Zephyrian merchant and his 40,000 people. He thought about all the small worlds and stations that would face the swarm alone. He thought about the children who would die because the powerful had chosen to hide. "Send a message to all human ships and stations," Jake said in a clear voice. "Tell them what has happened here. Tell them the great empires have sealed themselves away. Tell them millions of innocent people are going to die." "And then?" Amy asked. Jake straightened his shoulders. "Then tell them we have a choice to make. We can run home to Earth and build walls like everyone else, or we can do what humans have always done when others needed help." He paused, looking at each member of his crew. "We can fight." The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Rick Martinez spoke up. "The fleet communications are ready, Admiral." "Send it out," Jake ordered. "To every human ship, every station, every colony. Ask for volunteers, anyone who wants to stand between the innocent and the monsters." Lisa smiled for the first time in days. "You know they'll come. All of them." Jake nodded. He did know. It was not because humans were braver than other races. It was not because they were stronger or smarter. It was because when everything fell apart, when the powerful ran away and the weak were left alone, humans had a habit of showing up anyway. Outside the viewports, the stars looked the same as always, but Jake knew that somewhere out there, the void swarm was coming. And when it arrived, it would find something it had never faced before. It would find humans who refused to run.